That's a really good question. I think there is a lot of interest for Greens running at different levels of office. I want to kind of address that and then address the thing that Noah was talking about as well. So this year in 2025, we've had 103 Green races so far, and we've won 47 of them, which is a pretty fair amount, right? Like close to like 46% of the races we enter, we win. We did run for some congressional seats in Texas and in Arizona, but we did not win those. Where we do tend to win is things like city councils and state assemblies and stuff like that, right? So pretty, what everyone says we should be doing is generally what we are doing. It's just not being picked up by media, so it's not covered and it just kind of goes, by the wayside. Noah, in regards to the circumstances or the petition that you brought up, yeah, they hate trans people these days. And that kind of legislation is directly targeting trans kids. Like it really, really is, like very specifically, pointedly, directly, with no ambiguity about it. And it really hurts. Not just, I mean, I'm a whole adult person, so my affectedness by that is different. But when you're a young person, and these opportunities for participation in group activities like sports and connection with your community of peers, of other kids your age, to be included in them and to just participate in your youngness, right? Your youth, that's completely being denied to these kids. And it's so unfair and just absolutely cruel and mean spirited in its orientation and its outcomes and goals. It's really pretty disgusting stuff. The truth of the matter is, when we look around at the elections over the last week to see how the Republicans spent so much money on anti-transgender advertising and lost all of those races, really goes to show that, broadly speaking, Americans have no appetite for that kind of transphobia and that kind of bigotry. There are other things which are more pressing to them and more concerning. And being a bigot on record is certainly not one of them. Anyway, that's all I have. Margaret, over.
And it's essentially a multi-million-dollar sexual harassment campaign against the children of Washington State. The idea is to force doctors, to force the state into the relationship between families and their doctors, and force doctors to assign genders to children at age 13, and then disclose that to school officials in some kind of strange, I don't know, it has something to do with sports. But that's the cover that they give to it. But it's just a sexual harassment campaign. So that's, Washington. I think the Green Party of Washington could take a role in either coming up with a competing initiative or educating people about this anti-LGBTQ initiative. There are other things, of course, we could do. We have, what aspect of anti-ICE organizing is there not enough actual organization around? And this is, actually a coordinated group of people, with a plan,
We are not single issue people, and we don't live single issue lives. That is a form of erasure and tokenization. The second form of erasure is to not acknowledge that in this moment there are many who are experiencing a loss of access to health care, to housing, and many resources. This refugee crisis that's happening across the country, 400,000 folks displaced, trans folks displaced, that's on top of the crisis that has existed in Black trans community for many, many years. Maybe now we can get some resolution and care for our community. In spite of the dismal outcomes, Black community, Black women, Black trans women, trans folks across the country have led the way in journalism, politics, economic development, and they have led our entire society. We're leaders not just on trans issues, so stop coming to us just for trans issues. We're leaders in
This year, it feels especially important to recognize trans visibility as transgender people in the United States are facing increased attacks on their rights, dignity, and ability to live free of hate and discrimination. In fact, just a few weeks ago, some scholars from the Lemkin Institute for Genocide Prevention and Human Security released a third red flag alert for the United States, warning that the nation is in the early to middle stages of a genocidal process against transgender Americans. This red flag alert is directly related to hostile federal and state legislation aimed at denying trans identity by restricting or eliminating gender-affirming healthcare, legal identification documents, public bathroom access, and participation in sports and athletics. In 2026, this year, we have 747 bills that are under consideration across the country that would negatively impact trans and gender nonconforming people. 23 anti-trans bills have passed so far this year alone. And just to color this a little bit, just last month, Kansas passed Senate Bill 244, which changes the rules regarding government IDs for transgender people. It prohibits transgender people from updating their driver's license or state IDs to reflect their gender, and also invalidates transgender people's existing driver's licenses, state IDs, and birth certificates if those documents were issued in Kansas and reflect a gender different from a person's sex at birth. These IDs were invalidated as of February 26th of this year. And last week, Idaho State Legislature passed what might be the nation's most strict bathroom ban, with violators could be charged with a misdemeanor and sentenced to a year in jail for a first offense or a felony, with up to 5 years in prison for a second offense. It is discriminatory and dangerous legislation like this, which is why we are seeing such an influx of trans folks coming here to Seattle, seeking asylum from hostile jurisdictions. So, thank you. This proclamation serves as a reminder to our local community that we see what is happening. We will stand by our trans neighbors and welcome our new ones, and we will celebrate trans joy. I'll also note it's the last day of Women's History Month, and I'll say that a women's movement that does not fight for trans women is not one that I'm willing to lead. And with that, I would now like to read the proclamation.
So when I finally decided to say yes to myself, I was living in Odessa, Texas. And there aren't many cities in West Texas that issue proclamations like this one for Transgender Day of Visibility. And across the country, the fear of rejection, harassment, and violence that manages to prevent countless people like myself from living as their true selves perseveres and continues, and that's why today matters. Seattle's commitment to being a welcoming city is not an abstraction for many of us here today. For me, this proclamation is something more than mere words or pageantry. Yet at a time when we are seeing more people arrive here in search of safety and dignity, our work is not only to affirm their identity, but to build durable systems that allow people to belong and to thrive. To quote a dear friend of mine, the transmigration crisis is a housing, employment, and healthcare crisis, and we have a lot of work to do.
So I think that generally when people approach me about wanting to run for governor or wanting to run for legislator, I generally ask if they've ever run for office before, and if maybe they want to start with city councilor or mayor or county commissioner, because those are positions that actually get a lot more done on a lived experience within your community perspective. So yeah, I guess I'm not saying that we shouldn't be running people for those larger issues, and I really respect Dr. Ware's campaign, and I respect his perspective on this. But yeah, usually I try to push people towards the stuff that they have a better chance of winning that will do more good when I come across it myself.
I'm the Executive Director of Gender Justice League and one of the co-founders of Trans Pride Seattle. As you all know, 16 years ago, Rachel Crandall created this day because at the time, the only time the world would pay attention to trans people was when we were murdered. Trans Day of Remembrance was the first large day that we had, and here in Seattle, we also created Trans Pride Seattle for the same reason. Thank you for honoring our community and bringing visibility. I'm here as one of those people that recently moved back to Washington State from Virginia. I was working in DC for several years on federal policy, and there are so many people that are moving to this city right now who were not here a year ago. Families who packed what they had, what they could, and moved here from Texas, from Missouri, from Idaho, from Tennessee. because those states made it impossible for them to raise their children, for them to be themselves at work, and now we're seeing in Idaho for people to go to the bathroom, making it a felony to go to the bathroom. Many of those parents have reached out to us and have told us that they moved because they couldn't treat their children who are in distress. Our city provides some of the last refuge, and I know many of us know this. And at Gender Justice League, we talk to these people every day because we've been providing direct service. We started as Just in Seattle, thanks to a grant from the city with our gender-based violence services. We grew to the county and then the state, and now we serve people in 27 states who call us for support. I'm really proud of that. I'm proud that we've built that we are one of the few beacons across the country to serve domestic violence survivors who are trans and two-spirit and non-binary. Seattle has become a refuge, and we have a lot to be proud about. We have a lot to do. This year, a hedge fund millionaire named Brian Haywood has spent nearly $5 million to put 2 measures on the ballot in November to ban trans kids from playing sports and to out our young people in schools. These measures are going to hurt all young people. It's going to force every girl in our state to have embarrassing, invasive exams of their genitals in order to play sports. It's going to erode the trust between students, teachers, and guidance counselors. The things that they need to say to get support, to get help, to report abuse, are going to be reported directly to their parents immediately. I know what that's like. I was in foster care. I disclosed the abuse I was experiencing to a guidance counselor. I can't imagine the fear that young people would have if they didn't have other supportive adults in their life. We all need to band together, not just to be visible, but to take action. And I'm urging everybody here to check out our campaign, No Hate in Washington State, to endorse, to support, to volunteer, and to donate. We are being outspent 10-1 by out-of-state millionaires who want to push their hateful agenda. As folks have said, Seattle is one of the last refuges, and we must defend what we have here. Thank you so much.
Transgender. All transgender residents of Kentucky are about to be declared mentally ill and be barred from employment in education. This is something that is happening right now. Everyone in the room knows where this leads to. I'm Japanese American. In 1942, my 6-year-old grandfather and his family were rounded up and forced to live at the Santa Anita racetrack in horse stables until they finished building the concentration camp in the desert. And what do we see here now? The federal government buying up warehouses to put people in while they finish the concentration camps out in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of the swamp. We know where this is going. This has happened before. And it's not just immigrants. It's not just trans people. It's all of us. It starts with us because we're the most vulnerable. It's the easiest for them to go for. We're the canary in the coal mine for the whole nation. And we, as a nation, have an obligation to adhere to the principles of what happened before must not happen again. The atrocities that this nation has wrought upon its citizens before cannot be allowed to continue. The sanctuary that Seattle represents must remain sacrosanct in the minds of the transgender community and the minds of America at large. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to the council, and thank you so much for this proclamation that
just to speak to the high standards of candidates. We want people to run. Please, anybody's thinking about running, but we want people to have a handle on community organizing, really be engaged with maybe like 3 main things that are important to them, that are important to their community. And I would love to see us like run somebody for every position, because I was looking at the Shoreline, Washington ballot, and there were 3 or 4 people that were running unopposed. And why isn't there a green there, kind of thing, you know? I do want us to run green, but also we are a little bit vulnerable to people who, you know, misrepresent themselves in some ways. And we need to kind of be in it to win it. I totally agree. And yeah, and on the Washington, the Let's Go Washington issue, you know, nobody is living in a vacuum, and everybody either has a family member or knows somebody that would affect, and they're marketing it to parents like it's going to protect your children, when really it's going to abuse them and, you know, mess with their minds in spending this billionaire, Brian Hedgewood or something, he's a hedge fund manager who backed this bill, who's not even in our state, who's influencing our politics. And that's just bullshit. We need to get money out of politics, and that's one of the elements of systemic change we need to see happen. I won't take up more time. Over.
Great. Thank you, Alice. I don't see other... Oh, Halima, yes, please, go ahead.
I want to concur with what Alice said. I think, yes, be cautious, but at the same time, I think that Butch is right, that we are a party and we need to run people and, of course, vet people, but the only way this becomes a movement that's national is if more and more people are running under the green umbrella.
Agreed. Thank you, Alice. I don't see other... Oh, Halima, yes, please, go ahead.
I want to concur with what Alice said. I think, yes, be cautious, but at the same time, I think that Butch is right, that we are a party and we need to run people and, of course, vet people, but the only way this becomes a movement that's national is if more and more people are running under the green umbrella.